Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Community Corner. My name is KL Smith, and I'm joined by Nathan Mooney, Matt Schembari, and Colin Fogle. And today we're going to talk about the itemization system. It's coming. It's right around the corner.
Rolling up on us.
Yes, lots of questions from the community out there, and we're going to try to answer as many of them as we can to take a deep dive into the new system. How you guys doing?
Great. I am excited. We're a week and a half away from this going live at this point. It's kind of insane.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
Oh, I was supposed to wear the Oh, no.
Oh.
I didn't do it. All right.
You failed?
Yeah, dude, I failed.
Did we lose a meme? Did we
No,
just
we
lose a meme?
we lost a
This
meme.
is
guys.
the
We
death
lost
of a meme?
Yeah, I was gonna like dress up like Summertime Twin Blast.
Yeah.
And I was gonna show up and when he said deep dive, I was gonna like be like
Right.
deep dive. I got it. All right. Well,
You missed out.
wow.
Yeah.
I figured you wouldn't.
But it's really just like everyone just lived it, so we
Right.
did.
Yeah,
it.
right, right.
You're
We're good.
welcome.
So there's a lot of questions we're going to get through today. So I'm just going to start asking away and let the team kind of take over. So general questions about the system.
Sure.
What were some of the main goals driving us to create this new itemization system?
Sure. I mean, lots.
There's a few.
Yeah, lots of things. I mean, so, we were never particularly happy with the previous card system. It had just a bunch of gameplay flaws and, things like the 60-point cap at the end causing games to stagnate forever.
Yeah.
The clarity around them. It was really difficult for players to understand how to build a deck where you have to kind of take these cards and you can link some cards to that and upgrade them with additional points. And, we thought that a lot of games were just too focused on just kind of boring numbers, and there was kind of like a correct way to do things all the time. So those are some of the main things I had. I mean, I don't know if you had anything.
Yeah, those were all. The biggest thing on the design side was the spreadsheeting of the game, and ultimately everything did come down to a spreadsheet where it's like, oh, this is the optimal damage path, and we knew we could do better, and I think the system that we created is a nice representation of that. There's just lots of choice.
Yeah, a lot more choice, a lot more action, a lot more fun, crazy things to do, experimentation, creativity, that kind of stuff.
Okay. What were some of the deciding factors in changing usability? We've talked about on numerous times how difficult it has been for new players to come into the game and understand the existing card system. So what changes have we made, and what's driving a lot of the new itemization that we're moving toward right now?
Right. So this is kind of attacked on two different sides. On one side, you've got the UI angle, and then on the other, you've got the content angle. I think those were both contributing factors to what made the system so hard to understand before.
Right.
In many ways, the previous deck builder and the card shop that is in the live game, they were built super fast. We were trying to get the game out for early access and things like that. We always knew we wanted to go back and revisit a lot of the UI stuff, the quality of life things, and this time we were able to kind of really sit back and focus on the actual interaction, the actual UI of these screens and how they work. But also on the content side, we wanted to make sure that things were really clear for players to understand that an ability on a card, for example, is a very clear ability, what it actually does.
Right.
Like we've got one that you throw a fireball, everyone understands what that means, right? And we still have kind of complex cards, right? But they're more clear from the language that we used in the description, from the names of things to the art on them, things like that. Just really kind of let you understand, when you use a card, when you're playing a card, what it actually does.
Right.
And I think it's also more clear why you should care about the cards.
Right.
And I think that's a big thing. Like, we always joke about on a full moon when the person's bleeding and you're under 25% health, then you have 50% lifesteal. Like, those types of things are hard to understand, like what scenarios you could possibly find that to be useful. And I think we've done a lot better of everything being a bit more straightforward as to, I can see why this is important to me and why I care about this and what I might do in a deck kind of scenario.
And one of the things that Matt mentioned was the 60-point card build. And in the previous system, or the current system that you guys are playing right now, if you're a new player and you make a build and you go, oh, that's actually 57 points. Whoops.
Yeah. It was so hard to math. I should say it was so easy to get the math wrong on the previous system. And, frequently, I'd see on Reddit, people would say, oh, can you just put a point cost calculator in there so that I can easily see? And like, yeah, we could have, but I wasn't really solving the core problem. The core problem was that it was just hard to understand and so easy to make mistakes. And of course, we would have to divine, well, did you intend to use this upgrade card or that upgrade card? And it got really complex to actually, do that calculation. And so really, we just wanted to throw away that whole system. Like, it shouldn't be so easy to make mistakes.
Right. Okay. And then one of the things that we're constantly doing is UX testing. And so when you bring up the card menu now, one of the things that you'll highlight is what cards you can actually slot. Right. So from a usability standpoint, can you guys kind of talk about some of those new features that are in there to make it easier to understand?
Right. So kind of the first thing that players will see is that we put a little more effort into some of the onboarding that will happen. So the first time you play with the system, there's a lot more kind of pop-up-y type things, and there's a bit more of a staged process you go through to kind of learn the system a little bit at a time. You're not just overwhelmed with all of this stuff at once. And the other thing that we did was really play up the art and animation so we can kind of help drive your eye to what we want to teach you, right? So one example is, when you're using, when you buy a card, you're using some of your attribute points. We've got the little icons kind of flying over, so you can kind of see, oh, here's 7 little swords flying over, right? And then you discard it. The 7 swords go back into your pool. Little things like that, the glow that you mentioned, when a card is now affordable, it pops up with a blue glow around it. Things like that really draw your eye to the different pieces of the UI, and it's not perfect yet. There's a lot more we still want to do. In fact, I just came from a UX report right before this, of all the things that we still need to fix. But I think it's already a lot better. We've seen that in the UX tests we've done, is that new players who haven't been exposed to Paragon yet at all, they're coming in and understanding the card system within game, 1 or 2 games.
Yeah, see, that's much better. And my first time playing, I can't remember if Mooney was in that. We had our like playtest session afterwards. Yeah. And by the way, guys, there was like no art on the cards. The descriptions for the cards didn't pop up. But I'll tell you what, the attribute system, I knew what I was upgrading a lot easier. And it was just like, oh, I get it.
The whole flying of the attribute point, like knowing when I put that was super helpful for me to know like what I was allocating for what period of time for what item.
Yeah.
Something that we really wanted to do with the attributes was for a new player coming in, we wanted them to be able to not necessarily have to focus on the cards themselves and still be effective. And so you come in and you say, oh, vitality, that means that I get more life. You just put points into that, right? You can actually get through an entire game right now. As a brand new player, you're playing against bots, right? As a brand new player, you can go through an entire game and just spend points, and you're still effective enough to win that bot match. Now, we want you to play cards. We want that to be part of the system. But at the very least, if you are kind of overwhelmed by all the choice of cards,
I'm learning one system at a time.
Yeah, you can still succeed by putting your points into attributes. Now you're not going to be optimal, and these people, if they were to try that in PvP, they're going to go down in MMR pretty quickly. But those first games against bots, they're able to kind of just stumble through it a lot better. Whereas in the previous system, if you didn't equip cards, your math was just wrong in the game. If you're level 15 with no cards equipped, you're just wrong. Like you can't shoot towers correctly, you can't engage in fights. So that really has smoothed out the process a ton.
Okay.
And generally, everyone buys those. Like I've yet to see anyone really fumble on not buying attributes.
Yeah, we've seen that even with brand new players. They may not equip a card until 10 minutes into the first game, but they do spend points.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So that kind of touches on a lot of the in-game experience. When you're out of game and you're building your decks and you're in Deck Builder, what is that new experience like?
So the experience right now, or with the new system in 42, is a little bit more of a wizard-like process, right? And actually, we're going to still make some tweaks. And something that's important, I think, for everyone who's listening is that we're not done in V42, right? We're going to keep improving, keep iterating. And we already have the list of things that we want to do for 42.1 and 42.3 and future patches. But anyway, you get in and you say you want to make a new deck, and the very first thing you do is choose your 2 affinities, because as we mentioned before, your decks are no longer attached to heroes. Instead, your deck contains 2 affinities, and then that decides which cards you choose. So first you choose your affinities. You say, okay, I want to go order growth, right? So you choose those 2 affinities, then you select your cards, and you can select anywhere from 3 to 12 cards. And so you just, you got the whole list and you just click each one, they just turn on and glow, right? So it's a lot more intuitive what you do. They're just glowing there. Then you choose your cards, you hit next, and then you slot your gems. And you slot your gems by going to whichever attributes you want. And let's say we're going to intellect. I'll choose intellect, and I'll choose the first gem slot, and I can choose which gem I want. Depending on how many gems I have, I can say, among these 4 gems, I want the one that gives me extra mana when I run out of mana. And then you can go around the wheel and add whatever gems you want. You can add them to any attributes you want, any order that you want. And so you slot in your 6 gems. And so then you click next when you're done with that, and you have like a final confirmation, like a summary of, here's your cards, here's your gems. You can name your deck there, and we have some grand plans for what we want to do with that. So to help with deck management, so we can do things like you can maybe put some tags on a particular deck, so you can say which heroes it's particularly good for. Maybe type in your own description, things like that. That'll be coming over time, but that's basically it. This kind of wizard flow.
Okay.
Yep.
So one of the questions that we got from Wisdom Shark is, and we talked about this last week for migration. We didn't touch deck slots specifically or coins. Coins stay on your account. If you have a coin, you're fine. What will happen with those deck slots?
Yeah.
So there was another follow-up question in the same vein. It's like there's someone on the forums that said, I have 100 deck slots. What's going to happen when we move to the new system? I'm going to have to buy all those again, or what's going to happen?
So the short answer is that nothing really changes with deck slots, right? So every deck slot that you have before, you keep. We are kind of doing you the favor of deleting all your decks because they're not going to be valid anymore.
Right.
So but you'll keep
and to
all
give
the
you a new experience of building 100 decks.
Yeah, right. But you will keep all of your deck slots,
Right.
and so whatever number you had before, you get to keep those. And just like before, if you run out of slots and you want to purchase more, you can spend reputation or coins to keep adding on to your number of slots. So really, structurally, the deck slot system hasn't changed at all.
So Mooney, how many deck slots are you going to have when?
I think I'll have I think I have 11 or something, 11 or 12.
Are they going to be like steel? Who are you going for?
Oh, there are like 11 steel decks and then like one Aurora deck.
Okay.
I should have checked since I logged into your account earlier today. I was spying on you.
Yeah, he was. We were looking through some of the mastery stuff.
Yeah.
What level will you be when you transfer over? Do you know?
Oh, I know.
We don't have to go into this, right? Like that can just be. I'll be a surprise, right? We talk about that in the first community corner after the update, right?
Yeah, I guess.
That can be like the we'll do like a rundown. We'll like look at all our accounts and like see where we're at. And
I already know. I know where I'm at.
Yeah,
I'm feeling really good right now, guys. I'm gonna have a lot of veteran chests. I'm gonna come in and my account level is gonna be nice and crisp.
Let's just say I got a screenshot earlier of what my account might look like, and my initial assumption was, did KL put you up to this?
Yes.
So if that is any indication, then I think we can just go on and move on to the next question.
But you got a lot of chests though.
Yeah,
That
look
was
at
actually
these
cool.
chests, man. I'm rolling in the chest though, KL,
Yeah.
because
Right.
I was out here grinding like all of those
Heroes.
all those heroes that come. I was just playing down the roster. Man.
Yeah, you went like a breadth first kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
approach.
Exactly. Just trying to experience the full breadth of the game. You know what I mean? Trust me.
So we touched a little bit on attributes and gems
Yeah.
last week. We touched on it, I think even a little bit the week before. Finally, today we're gonna take a little bit of time to talk more about attributes and gems. So we have added attributes and gems, and the big question I think a lot of community have is like, gems? What?
Right.
So
Yeah.
how did we arrive at that decision to create this new system as a part of the itemization?
So gems. We wanted to clarify the deck building experience, since we have this building decks out of game mechanic, which is part of Paragon, which we feel is very intrinsic to what the game is. A large portion of your build in any given game was already kind of decided before you start. You weren't going to be reacting to things like, I'm going to build micro nuke, and then another micro nuke, and then another one, then you'd have 5 micro nukes. And ultimately, that was all decided before the game started. And as we added more cards that were interesting, and it was still kind of the same thing. Like, a portion of your build is predetermined before you start. So gems is us trying to clarify deck building into, hey, these are the things that kind of affect my character, which I'm going to buy regardless, and I'm going to select them over the course of deck building, and as the game progresses, I'm going to get them. That was something which we wanted to just make it a bit more straightforward as to what you were doing, and then rely on cards to be where you kind of get creative and you're reacting to what the other team does and that sort of thing. So knowing that we wanted to do that, the attribute system is taking a lot of the old system. The one thing which I thought worked well was if you wanted to buy a stat, you knew what you wanted to do.
Right.
Like, I want health, I'm going to buy health. If I want damage, I'm going to get strike tokens and that sort of thing. So attributes is essentially that. There's agility, vitality, intellect.
He's joking because we just renamed.
We just renamed a bunch of them. So agility, vitality, intellect, and agility will be what you buy for attack speed and basic armor.
Right.
Vitality will be health and health regen, and intellect will be mana and mana regen. So should be pretty obvious which characters buy which, and then as you purchase those, you'll unlock gems along this path, which again will also be related to the type of thing you're buying.
Right.
For example, agility, in the third rank of that tree, as you go down the path, there's lifesteal and multi-shot, which creates additional projectiles on your attacks.
Cool.
Okay.
So it's obvious, like, you buy attack speed, yeah, you get things that help you if you're buying attack speed.
Right.
And it's all part of your builds, and you've planned it all out during deck building.
And so one of the things that I think that is important is each of the gems at certain milestones has a better upgrade or different rank of gem. I think the question that a lot of folks that I've seen is, okay, so if I get a rank 6 gem or rank 5 gem, how long is that going to take? Where's the economy at in that? How do I spend those points? So what are some of the thoughts around how you wanted to get people to progress to each of those levels? Was it more like, okay, at rank 1, you're going to clearly understand that this gem is not as valuable as the one at rank 5, so you have to spend more time to get there? Was that a goal from the onset, to have that like progressive, each of these are going to ramp up in strength?
Yeah, I mean, as you get further into the tree, you get items that are even more reinforcing what the thing you're purchasing.
Okay.
And we really want to reinforce gems are items. Like,
Yeah.
really, especially when you get to the rank 4 and rank 5, at the very end of the tree, like, those gems are items outright.
Right.
Yeah.
And the distinction is we use gems for things that kind of empower yourself for the most part, and then things that affect other players or that change the rules of the game in drastic ways, or cards. But they're all items in the end, and I want to make sure that's like really straightforward and clear. And as you go through, some of the early gems might be akin to like an early game item, and you'll have them throughout the game because you unlock them. But as you go further down the tree, like, those are late game items, and you have them unlocked. And during deck builder, you can choose, I have 6 gems to allocate. Do I want to push them all towards late game stuff? But then I have to earn them. I have to get the money in order to get to that point.
It's like a lot of trade-offs.
Yeah, or if I'm a support or an off-laner or someone that I don't expect to get a lot of money, maybe I get lots of early game gems, so I get all these really cool early game, mid game items that I'll actually be able to attain.
Okay.
Yeah, and so while the gems may be more straightforward than a card is, they're not necessarily weaker by any stretch. I mean, there's the late game intellect one where you do 20% more damage, but it takes 30% more mana.
Yep.
There are cards like that as you get to the end of it that are very clearly powerful and very clearly strong.
Okay. And there's a big change for where you can upgrade these now, right? So I think there's been questions, at least some people have been asking about, okay, can we actually upgrade these in the field now? Right. So for gems, there was in the attribute system, as a part of this, you can now upgrade these if you have the economy necessary out in the field. What was the decision behind doing that?
So the being able to upgrade or purchase your attribute points while out in the field was mostly to kind of help keep you in the action for a lot of those micro decisions, right? Like, we purposely made the attribute points have a certain number, is 25 per attribute, because we wanted you to have lots of purchase opportunities and times to be able to plus up or whatever. And so what would happen is you'd see that you have 3,000 gold or whatever, and maybe you don't have enough for a card yet, but you were feeling compelled, like, oh, I got to go back to base to get those 3 points. But in reality, if you're getting 3 points without a gem, it's not a massive amount of power right there. So we thought that it'd be better to keep you in the field for that. And so you can run around and you just quickly press G if you're on PC or touchpad if you're on controller, and just click, and you get the extra power right there in the field. So you don't have to go back as much.
Right.
You still have to go back to get your cards, and that's where the real power spikes happen.
Yeah.
But the incremental growth can still happen in the field.
Right.
Okay. And switching gears a little bit, getting right into cards. So we talked about the number of gems, which is 6, that you can equip for your build as a part of itemization.
I like that you just yelled at the camera. It's like, the number of gems you can get, 6?
6. There's 6.
There's
6 gems.
6 gems. 6 gems that you can equip.
Possibly the only number we didn't change during all of development, actually, was the number of gems.
Yeah, that never changed.
Yeah.
So was it just 6? It was just 6.
Yeah, I think we just...
We picked the correct number the first time.
Wow, that never happened.
No iteration whatsoever.
So I've seen questions from the community about how many cards you can select in the deck. So as of right now, in the current system, you can select 40 cards. Whether that be upgrades, you can select. Can you actually select 40 upgrades? I think you can.
Yeah, you could actually
Yeah.
you could actually build a
do
deck
that
of 40 upgrades.
with just upgrades.
Another example of bad things that you can no
actually
longer
do that.
mess yourself up.
As a matter of fact, you have like 2 more weeks in order to
Yeah.
build
You
your
have 2
deck
more
with just
weeks or
upgrades
I feel bad
for the sake of doing it.
The new player that came in and was like, man, all these attack. Yeah, I'm just gonna build all this attack speed. This is great. Just purchasing all those cards.
look at his deck,
Then
it's
they
a-
go in the game and they're like,
I think you have to. I think you have to change an option though. I think by default it doesn't let you do that.
I don't think. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. So right now you can choose 40 cards.
Yeah.
In the new system, it is 12.
Yep.
What is the decision behind taking that amount from 40 to 12?
Yeah, this is something that we wiggled on quite a bit as far as trying to find just the right number. One of the goals of having a deck size limit in the first place is to sort of limit your decision space and kind of force you to make some decisions around like, hey, which stuff do I actually value in this match versus, for example, taking a Portal Stone in with every single match that you play. It's
Right.
like, do I actually think I'm going to use Portal Stone? And we find that deck building really compelling. We think it's an important part of Paragon.
Right.
So going from 40 to 12, realistically, in the old system, you would build, this is the card I'm going to buy, these are the 3 upgrades I'm going to put into it, was the most common use case.
Yep.
Which effectively means you had 10 cards.
Yep.
Yep.
If you actually work that out, because 4 times
Yeah.
10 is 40.
Yeah.
And we're good.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh, those-
4 times 10 is 40.
numbers. This is the numbers screen.
Yeah.
This is why he does balance.
So when we switched, this is when we switched it over. We kind of landed on numbers between 10 and 15 because we did want to actually increase a little bit of the decision making in the field as you go through the game. So we landed on 12, and there's 3 active slots in game. So you can put your 12 cards, you can have 3 in play.
Okay.
So 3 and then 6 gems for a total of 9
9?
items.
Yes.
9
So
items.
increase the number of items you can have active.
This
at
is
any time.
important because, I've already seen this from
Oh,
people
it's
that
a ton.
understand that we've now reduced it to 3 cards.
Yeah.
And the common, I think this is just a common thing in gaming in general, right? But there's a focus on simplicity. You've simplified my experience, and people go, why did you do that?
You're
right?
dumbing it down.
Right.
Yeah.
And those are the types of things that are I think both something that we want to just come out right and address. But from our perspective, you actually have 9 slots. So you actually have more slots available
Right.
than you did in the current system. And can you actually explain, I guess, some of the gameplay that really encompasses and how that has changed up what we're seeing right now
there's
internally?
so many benefits to doing it this way. For one, while card points could be spent on anything, now that we have the 3 different attributes and then the cards cost an amount of that attribute, you're planning which types of items can I purchase if I'm going down agility, for example.
Right.
And you end up with these interesting things where it's like, I can go here, or I can dip a little bit further in intellect to get this card. And then it's like, do I want to change my gem? Do I want to get a gem in intellect since I'm purchasing intellect in order to purchase the card?
Right.
The deck building experience and like working out a full build that's optimized is actually way more interesting. You're making strategic choices of I value this card over this card versus math choices of I need to fit another 2-point thing into my deck. So that's a big benefit. Another thing is by going to 3 slots, it ultimately let us make cards more powerful. And I know that can sound a bit counterintuitive at times, but when people can only do 3 things that break the rules of the game instead of 6 things that break the rules of the game, we can make those be way more impactful. And I think if you look at the cards that we're talking about, like we have some really
There are some powerful cards.
that's the giddy. It's the giddy laugh that we end up having every time where we're like, "Can we do that? Yeah, let's try it. Let's try it."
Right.
Yeah, like a Domain of Stillness, which is it's a stasis rune,
I
but
love that.
everyone around you, your teammates and enemies included, go into stasis.
Right.
And
Such a
initially,
sick card.
Billy Rivers, one of our card guys, he was like, "Hey, how do you feel about this?" Colin, the balance guy for the game, and I was like, "Absolutely not. There's no way. Like, we will not do that." Especially because I was getting all the feedback. Stasis Rune on live is really good. It's
Right.
like, yeah, you're right. So then it was like, all right, let's try it. And we tried it and was like, oh, actually, it's not that crazy because ultimately you can only do 2 other things after that,
Yeah,
and it works out. But having the 6 item space in order to do a ton of stuff ultimately makes it so that we can make more or fewer interesting things. And now that we have 3 card slots, we've actually been able to do all sorts of crazy stuff that we wouldn't have thought before. And it makes that process of going in deck building, thinking in theory, crafting what you're going to do, and then executing it in game just that much more satisfying. Because not only do you think about all the crazy stuff you can combo, but then you did it in game, and it wasn't completely broken. But you were able to have your moment where it was like, I stasis ruined the entire team, and then our team swept in, and like it worked.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things to think about and how you phrase that is people are going to experiment,
Yeah.
right? And so that, I think, more so than the current system, when you have the level of play that we've seen already, and by the way, the comp team just put together a montage that I
That
watched.
was awesome.
That
It's
is
really
incredible. He talked about, okay, say the name of the card again.
Domain of Stillness. Is the
Domain of Stillness, where the enemy team activated, Gideon activated his ultimate, and he group stasis everyone, so him and his teammate went into stasis, but it also stopped the Gideon and pulled him out of his ultimate. And those are the type of compelling gameplay elements that we haven't quite seen yet. And so when you start mixing and matching together things, it makes for this very strategically deep and tactical planning of how players are experimenting with the game. And that's, I think, the specialty, the special thing about Paragon now with this new system is you're going to really get to see people push the envelope on what they think is possible and how they play and how they counterplay. And then, oh, you did this, well, now I'm going to do this, right? And that gets me to one point that I want to jump to on the types of cards that we have. And so there are different types, and you guys can describe all of them. There's consumable.
Well,
so,
yeah.
yeah, so the system as a whole we call card traits.
Card traits.
Is what we're calling these. And the foundation was, hey, we have cards. We should probably like have some card game mechanics in the game and really leverage the fact that we have these decks with these rules and that sort of thing. So we introduced a card trait for each affinity was the kind of how we're allocating them. So knowledge has consumables, which is standard to a MOBA, but we didn't have that before, you know, because we just didn't. Before, if you used a card, it would go away forever, but now you'll get it back. So discards don't go away forever; they actually go back into the game. You can play them again.
You hear that? Discards.
Which you would think isn't a big change, but it actually changes quite a bit. Like it changes a ton. So yeah, your card doesn't go away anymore. We might actually use that for a future trait down the line that it goes away forever. We'll see.
Ooh, okay.
Just to call out, so the way the trait is that some cards in each affinity have that trait. Not all cards.
Not all.
There are some potion cards under knowledge.
Yep.
Yeah.
So for example, we have one that you consume, and then you can run around with move speed boost for like 3 minutes, but it costs you gold, so you've invested in it, and you essentially have to go regain that gold investment with this big move speed boost for 3 minutes.
Okay.
Then in Death, we have Cursed, and Cursed cards, once you play them, they're stuck in play forever. So this will continually use up one of your 3 card slots, which this goes back to like why 3 card slots. It's a resource which we can kind of leverage for this type of thing. So the Cursed card is using up one of your slots. They're usually early game or mid game cards that provide a big advantage early on, but then have a big downside as you kind of get further down in the match.
Right.
Or they have just outright bad effects that happen to you in addition to the rewards. So lots of cool stuff we can do there. But once they're in play, you can't remove them. They're stuck using that slot for the rest of the game. Combustible is if you die, you lose the card. And the gold investment that went into it, it discards. Sorry, it'll be back in your hand, or back in your deck, so you can play it again.
Right.
And these are like high risk reward type cards. So you might get the one is you get more gold for last hits, but it costs you a bunch of gold up front, so you have to go get all the last hits without dying, and the other team sees you have the card, and then you're a big target.
You're a big target. Oh, you got to put him out. Yeah, for sure.
Cultivate is in growth. That reduces the gold cost of the card as you purchase attribute points, and ultimately means that you get free cards over time. But if you spend a little bit of gold early, you might get them a little bit quicker. And as you'll see once you see the content that it makes sense to kind of reach for those every now and then.
Right.
Then Elevate is in order, and those increase in power if they're the only card in play. So
they'll take you to new levels. To new heights.
They'll take you to new heights. So for example, we have one that gives you 15% increased max health. And if it's the only card in play, then every attribute point that you've purchased increases that by 1%. Ooh. So you can quickly kind of do some numbers, and it's like, oh, that's a lot of health.
Yeah.
But it's the only thing you've done.
Right.
So
You're
you were a one-trick pony.
Decision,
But you can then equip another card when you're ready to take the trade-off of losing that boost, and you still have the other card
You'll
available.
still have the 50% as well.
Yep.
So there's lots of interesting choices, and as you kind of get combos, I'm going to let you in on one of them.
Yeah.
Order plus knowledge means you can use consumables with Elevate and go out into the field, activate your consumables, and then your Elevate card's still active because it's the only thing in play.
Yep.
Yeah. There's all sorts of like
Yeah.
really cool combinations we're able to leverage because we kind of went that card game route and we're able to use some
That's
of
a
those.
that's a Fogle fact for you guys out there.
Fogel
a Fogle
fact.
fact.
Oh,
fact,
Fogel
wow.
facts.
Where's
Wow.
the Mooney meme?
Dude, we already covered the fact that I missed the mark this week on that one.
Cards have associated costs with them, obviously, and we mentioned, Matt, you mentioned how now you get to see the attributes flying over to the
Yeah.
card.
Yeah.
So attributes are one factor of it, and we've also mentioned gold. But what I'm curious about is when that attribute flies over to the card, that's actually taking away from that pool that you have.
So
for
yeah, I guess we haven't
attributes.
exactly explained it yet in this video, but the way it works is you get gold and then you can purchase attribute points, right? So
Right.
intellect. So it's 1,000 per point. So
Yep.
I go out, I've got 5,000 points, let's or gold, and so I go plus 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 plus, and I've got 5 intellect points now, right? I use those to purchase cards, and you'll see cards in the top left have some associated costs.
Right.
Some of them are just intellect, some of them might be a mixture, some could be all three. And so let's say that I go and I purchase a card that costs 3 intellect points, right? So I go and I spend those 3 intellect points. But really what I'm doing is I'm reserving it. While that card's in play, it's using it. But as soon as I discard, I get those points back.
Right.
Right. So we think of it like like an inventory system in a lot of RPGs where, your carrying capacity is, you can only carry so much.
Right.
But once you kind of drop something,
some
you
stuff,
can pick
can
something
pick
back
it
up,
back
right?
up, right.
So it's like that. And we
Got
hope
it.
that it's intuitive. I think that's the kind of thing that when you have to explain it, it doesn't sound great. But once you start playing it, you see
go,
the pips
"Oh,
just
start
fly
making
around.
sense."
You,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
pick
yeah.
it up the first game, I think.
And the way it
Yeah.
plays out is very MOBA in the sense that you have these early and mid game items that you're building,
And then you
once you
allocate.
get to the big one, it's like, all right, I'm gonna get rid of all these, and I'll
Yeah,
take this big,
yep.
powerful item.
Yeah, that
instead.
was actually a important goal of ours, was to still preserve the MOBA itemization system. Like, absolutely, we view this as a MOBA itemization system, 100%.
Yeah,
it has
fully.
just kind of like it's kind of shuffled around the presentation of it, really, right? But when it comes to things like what Colin was saying about your fixed portion of your build is in the gems, and you're constantly growing in power on some of the attributes, and you're taking your cards, and you discard a couple to get another one. Like, a lot of these things you can see are really just a twist on the existing MOBA itemization mechanics, and I think it's a really cool way to present it. But at the end of the day, it's still MOBA itemization, and it has all of the cool power and flexibility and craziness that these systems have.
Yeah,
Nice.
I'm super excited. Super excited. We're getting towards the end. I have a couple more questions in regards to cards. First, there's been a number of posts that we've seen pop up about crit.
Yeah.
So, Colin, can you explain how crit is different in the new itemization system?
Yeah, so one of the things when we landed it, so build diversity was a goal.
Yep.
We landed at carry itemization. It's particularly a problem because you increase crit chance, and then
Carries?
it's always the best.
Yeah.
Like, crit chance is always the best, just period.
Yep.
So what we try to do is angle crit as more of a playstyle choice towards that bursty play with a little bit of RNG factor.
Okay.
So crit in the new system, there is no more concept of crit chance and then a crit bonus as two separate things. Instead, a card will say 20% chance to do 100% bonus damage. And that means that card, each time you hit someone, has a 20% chance of doing its thing, which is 100% bonus damage.
Right.
And then if you have two things that work that way, so you have two cards that are 20% chance to do 100% bonus damage, they roll independently. So this might proc and this one doesn't, or this might proc and this one doesn't, or they might both proc and then you get a big 300% hit.
Right.
But they're all acting independently. It isn't one big crit chance value that you're putting up. So if you decide to invest in that crazy burst play style, there's going to be a very low chance that all your stuff procs together, but when it does, you'll get a big damage
Big,
pop,
huge,
and
yeah.
you'll actually feel like you itemize towards that specific gameplay.
Okay.
Got it.
Sounds cool. And then there's a ton of new effects, right? And this is one thing that I think that once you see them in game, there's a lot. Is there a specific, how do I want to phrase this? Is there a specific way that we have defined power based off of effect? Or another way to rephrase that is, do all of the cards that have very powerful attributes have an effect on them?
Well, every card in the game has an effect on it.
Yeah, that was very important from the beginning.
Yeah.
So a card has an ability.
Okay.
Is the word we're using.
Ability,
It might be a passive ability, it might be an active ability, but every single card has. There's no card that is a pure numbers card.
There you go. And that's where I was getting at.
Well, okay. I guess.
There's a few, so, like, for example, you can't purchase pen directly anymore. So there's a card that increases pen, but it's the only card that increases pen as that thing.
Right.
So
Okay.
So it's an
at
option
the very
you're
least,
choosing
they're
into.
unique abilities.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the
Right.
ability.
But the abilities
of the
that
card.
exist on those cards, we have all those effects we talked about, like in
Right.
the past, that we have like hundreds of those
Hundreds
effects.
of new
yeah.
effects, right?
Yep.
And then the next question I have after that is, are these the only cards that we are releasing?
Yeah, so we're 100% planning on, over time, releasing more and more cards.
Okay.
That's definitely part of the plan.
All right. And then there's a question from Shinya. I've asked some very general questions that try to sum up a lot of what I've seen so far. But this one is there a restriction to cards based on rarity? And there was some additional information and context around that. Is we talked about leveling up cards. And what I believe this question is asking is, if I have a certain level card in this slot that is level or the highest rank card, does that mean I can't have another high level rank card in my second slot or my third slot?
No. So the rarity of a card is kind of the uncommon, epic, rare, etc. And really that just plays into kind of the chance to find it, and a little bit into kind of the complexity of cards. Like,
Okay.
the epic cards tend to be the most complex or unique or things like that compared to common cards. That's really all rarity is, and there's no restriction to whatever you can
So
put. You
if
can have
I
an all
had
epic
10 epics, I could
yeah.
equip each
You
of
could- yep.
those
Yeah.
in game.
And all the
Yes.
cards are balanced against each other, so rarity doesn't factor into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, and leveling doesn't play any role in that either. The leveling is for PvE mode.
PvE mode.
Yeah.
Okay, we got most of those questions. I think all
All the card stuff.
Yeah.
all the card stuff. So onto economy. We mentioned this a little bit. We're changing the amber, which is currently in the game, to gold. And then this is from Meh, the Trollface. How much gold do we get per minion, last hit, amber link, hero kills, and assists?
Off the top of your head, go.
Oh. 54 to 95 variable, and 350 plus money based on so it's, I'll give you the minion ones. It's like 68 gold and then 94 for a ranged minion or something like that.
Okay.
For the people that somehow know the cost of all of our stuff and want to try and put it in context.
Oh no,
then-
like 2 to 300 notepads just like opened up on desktop.
Yeah, it's like,
right when you said that.
Let me plug this into my
Yeah,
spreadsheet.
spreadsheet. Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. I think we covered them all the questions.
Cool.
That
You
I
want to talk
think-
about the decision for gold versus amber? Saw lots of people commenting on that.
Oh yeah, actually, I saw those threads as well. Gold is just plain more clear is the bottom line, right? I saw lots of people saying like, oh, amber is really cool and all that, but I was actually never a huge fan of amber. I used to joke that, a bunch of us are like, in Jurassic Park going around and collecting little mosquito ambers, and we're getting the DNA, and that's the power that's powering our cards, right? Like,
Now that you described it that way, I think we should go back.
Jurassic Park.
yeah,
yes.
right. I mean, I guess we got the Raptors, so.
There you go.
But no, I mean, gold is just a lot more clear. I mean, because one of the things we didn't like about the system before was, you had card points and it came from card XP. So you kill a minion, it gives you card XP, which then turns into card points, which you then use to purchase cards. And it's like that whole
But card
chain.
XP is amber, but
Yeah, and right. Card XP, the whole chain was just like chaos, right?
Right.
So now it's kill a minion, get gold, spend gold to get thing. And
Got it.
it's just nice and clear. And it doesn't change the system. It doesn't kind of dumb it down or anything like that. It really just makes it clear so that people can come into the system without having to know what this amber thing is or whatever.
Provide you more clarity into what you're earning and what it's giving you.
That's exactly it.
Right.
Yeah.
we
And
got
then
some awesome effects on the gold. And they
That's
go,
right.
Like, shoot
Oh, the
through
note-
the air,
yeah,
make it
that's
rain.
great.
Coin,
Yep.
Coinfetti, we're calling it.
Coinfetti.
I
Yeah.
like it.
There you go. Coinfetti.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. So thank you guys so much for coming on.
Yeah.
If you guys have any more questions, we'll try to follow up. Matt, you did an awesome follow-up to the mastery.
Sure.
Yep.
So if there's questions that we didn't cover that you feel like need to be further clarified, let us know. We'll try to put something together to get more information out there for you guys. This is going to be a big change. Just flat out, this is going to be a huge change for a lot of folks out there. Some of you are definitely going to have a harder time transitioning than others, but it's a change that we feel like is better for the long-term success of the game. We're very, very, very doubled down and confident in this going out, and we think that it's going to be an awesome experience for many of you to come in and go, wow, they're really not afraid to change
Yeah.
things up and try to improve things. So
We're doing the thing.
yeah, that's what we really hope that you guys kind of take away from this, and I'm looking forward to seeing all the comments and reading lots of feedback and discussion that we've seen so far. So hope you guys enjoyed today's show. Be sure to tune in next week. Next week, no community corner.
Oh, no community corner.
No community corner next
corner,
week.
bud.
Next week is Paragon exhibition event.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah, so tune in next weekend. On Friday, actually, starts the show, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Paragon Twitch channel, on YouTube, and on Facebook. You guys should be able to watch the Paragon exhibition event. But we hope you guys enjoyed the show today, and we will see you next time.
Thanks.